Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we tonight? David, good to see you, man. Enjoying that sandwich? There we go. Jersey Mike's, everybody? Mr. Pickles. Yeah, or Sessions, right? Dude, Sessions. Can you imagine if you were an owner to Sessions? If you haven't been to Mr. Pickles yet, I would go. What's that bread with the sweet crust? Dutch bread, ladies and gentlemen. Man, maybe we should need to go over there. There's one in Mission Viejo over by the college. There's one, Lake Forest over by the Hat and the bowling alley. I'm not sponsored, so I'm not getting anything for this. But can you imagine if I were? We'd be having Mr. Pickles every Sunday night. Dude. All right. Thank you for coming tonight. It's so good to see all of you. Hopefully you've had some great conversations here tonight over some sandwiches. I hope that small groups tonight is great. Tonight we'll be tackling Ecclesiastes 11 and the first part of chapter 12. So we're almost done with the book of Ecclesiastes, which I'm kind of sad about. But that's what we're doing here tonight. I do want to announce, next weekend we will not be meeting here on campus. We will be meeting at the Reddens' home, and it's a bro night. I guess that's what we can call it, right? Just the guys will be meeting at the Reddens' house, where we will be grilling lots of meat. I don't know what that meat's going to be. It's going to be something delicious. It's going to be at 5:30. So men, we will be meeting at the Reddens' house at 5:30. I will throw this on WhatsApp too, along with their address, so that you guys can get there safely and sound to eat some delicious grilled meat of whatever that is. Baptisms. I got baptisms, right? Baptisms are March 14th through the 15th. So if again, I think I said this last Sunday, if you have professed faith in Christ, this is the next step in obedience. I know it might be nerve-wracking to say, I don't want to share my testimony in front of a bunch of people, but this is such a tremendously good opportunity to stand up there and pledge your allegiance to Christ in front of your whole church family. What a blessing it is to have conversations with people you've never had after the service, to really have people come alongside you and be praying for you for your sanctification and your growth in your faith. So this is an opportunity. If you have any questions, find your leader. You can come talk to me, talk to Lauren. Come talk to us and ask about what that takes, what it all entails, and we're more than happy to talk about that. I have some future dates here for you guys. On WhatsApp, I'll be throwing out a couple dates here for the next few months where Lauren and I would love to be able to meet you. This will be in the middle of the week. We'd love to meet you, and dinner's on us. So we'll probably pick a pizza place or something like that. We've done that in the past. So look out for those dates. We'd love to have dinner with you. We're not going to pick and choose certain people. If you can make it, great. If we're having dinner just her and I, then okay. Then we see how it is. But dinner will be on us. We'll be throwing out those dates and locations here in the week to come. And I think that's all I have for this evening. Right, Monse? That's it? There you are. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and pray, and then I'll jump into the sermon here, Ecclesiastes 11, 1 through 12, verse 8. So let's pray. God, thank you so much for this time. I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to be able to teach from God's word, Lord. I pray that tonight we are not hardened to your word, that we are softened. God, I pray that our minds are ready, our hearts are ready. Lord, I understand that this is the tail end of the weekend where we've already listened to a sermon, maybe even two. God, I pray that this is an opportunity for us to just glean even more from your sermon and from your words tonight. God, I pray that this is something that we can immediately put to practice, that we can ponder on and be introspective about. But if there's conviction, that we're not just sitting passively, but we are active about that, Lord, that we're encouraged, that we're comforted, Lord. I pray that this is an opportunity for brothers and sisters to build upon the friendships and relationships that they're going to have, God. Thank you so much for this group. And in Jesus' name I pray, amen. All right, how many of you guys enjoy a good road trip? I had this friend that he was moving out to Texas, so he asked me to come with him. And so we went out, we drove. We did the drive, and I think about 22 hours. So we stopped in the middle of, I forget where. I think we were already in Texas, but we stopped off on the highway, and we slept. We almost got sideswiped. It was a crazy road trip, but it was one of those that I remember, and something that built upon my friendship with him. We finally got him there, and it was such a neat trip. I've never done that trip from California to Texas. I had never driven. I flew back because I was like, I'm not that crazy to drive back by myself, but I flew back. And at the beginning, it's a blast, right? You're in there. It's fun. You're listening to music. We had great snacks. We had great conversations. And then you enter into hour 12, 13, 14. We had some detours. We had some delays. In Arizona, we got stopped by a border patrol, I believe it was. And my friend, who is not Hispanic, is starting to say things, and I go, "You need to stop talking now." And so we moved on, right? Delays, detours, and breakdowns. See, the destination matters. Obviously, we were getting to Texas. We were going to Dallas, Texas, and that matters because that's where he was going to live. And the traveling there, the idea of it was fun for both of us until we made it to 22 hours and we're still in Texas, right? We got into Texas, and that wasn't even the fun part because we still had a lot of Texas to drive through. But how we handled those delays, detours, and breakdowns mattered because those determine whether it's an adventure or a disaster. See, you don't control every turn. We don't control the weather, and we don't control construction zones, but we still have to drive. We still have to make the drive. And how you drive, whether that's calmly or frustrated, patiently or recklessly, depends on whether you're confident about where it is that you're going. If you know where you're headed, you don't panic at every delay because you know exactly where you're going. You have your destination in view. You understand, okay, I know which way I need to go, even if there's a detour, even though there might be construction zones. I know my destination. But if you're unsure of that destination, every detour feels like a disaster. And that's what Solomon is saying and what he's doing and what he's explaining here in Ecclesiastes chapters 11 and 12. He's looking at life with the destination in view. And he's saying living life with the end in view is the appropriate way to view life. And this matters because living with the end in view isn't being a nihilist. It's not saying like this is the way life goes. Okay, then what's the point? We're not throwing our hands up in the air. We're not throwing the towel. We're not throwing in the towel. This is about wisdom. It means investing in what lasts. It means enjoying what God gives, and it's anchoring ourselves in Him before time reveals how fragile everything is. Solomon isn't saying life is meaningless. He's saying life is brief. And that brevity makes it urgent, and it makes you accountable in how you live it. These final chapters are his conclusion and his response and his personal application. He looks at life honestly with the end in sight. That's his destination. He's saying, I know where I'm going. And he gives us 4 pictures of life. 4 pictures of life. Life as a journey, life as a gift, life as school, and life as a stewardship. And these parallel, right, his 4 arguments in the last 2 chapters. Tonight, I'll be talking about 2 of those. Life as a journey and life as a gift. So let's read here. Ecclesiastes chapter 11, starting verse 1, and we're going to read through chapter 12, verse 8. So it might sound like there's a lot, but just as a reminder, chapter 10 was 20 verses. I'm just adding 8 more verses to this. So if you have your physical Bibles or on your phone, please follow along. We're going to start Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 1, and that says, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Give a portion to 7 or even to 8, for you know not what disaster may happen on earth. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth. And if a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where the tree falls, there it will lie. He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. As you do not know the way the Spirit comes to the bones in the womb of a woman with child, so you do not know the work of God who makes everything. In the morning sow your seed, and at evening withhold not your hand, for you do not know which will prosper, this or that, or whether both alike will be good. What in the world is Solomon saying there? Okay, cast your bread upon the waters. Okay, that he's speaking about merchants. As King Solomon, he was incredibly wealthy, very well off. He would send off goods on a ship and expect a profit to return. So he casted his bread upon the waters, right? For you will find it after many days. It will return and he will have profit. When people had to do that, when they had to send their goods off, right? The only thing they could do was have the faith that the result would be profit. So he's saying here, we're gonna have to launch out into faith. Launch out in faith so that we can continue living the life that we need to live. He says, give a portion or 7 or even to 8, for you know not what the disaster may happen on earth. Again, speaking to the same thing. And then in verse 3 and 4, he turns to the farmer. He says, if the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth. And if a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where the tree falls, there it will lie. He who observes the wind will not sow. He who regards the clouds will not reap. This is a lack of knowledge, isn't an excuse for inactivity. It's not about just saying we got to wait for the perfect time, the perfect conditions, the perfect weather. Right? It's not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about moving, right? And so this is the way we can understand those first 6 verses is that we have to live. We're living by a certain way. Okay. Then he continues. He continues here, verse 7. Light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. So if a person lives many years, let him rejoice in them all. But let him remember that the days of darkness will be many. He's saying people need to enjoy life. It's a gift. In verse 9, he says, be joyful about it. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart in the sight of your eyes, but know that for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. Here he's giving the youth a warning. Live life well because you have time. He continues, remove vexation from your heart, put away pain from your body, for youth and the dawn of life are vanity. Right? Enjoy. It's a gift. But see, in chapter 12, he's landing the plane here. He says, remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened and the clouds and return after the rain, in the day when the keepers of the house tremble. See, these, right, are important to closely listen to, because here is what he's saying is he's giving us images of aging. He says, the keepers of the house tremble. The strong men are bent, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those who look through the windows are dimmed. And the doors in the street are shut, when the sound of the grinding is low, and one rises up at the sound of a bird, and all the daughters of song are brought low. They are afraid also of what is high, and terrors are in the way. The almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper drags itself along, and desire fails, because man is going to his eternal home. Right? It's temporary. It's like we're going to fail. And the mourners go about the streets. Now, before the silver cord is snapped, the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern. And the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Vanity of vanity, says the preacher. All is vanity. He's saying here that live boldly by faith in a world we can't control. Right? We need to be like the merchant and the farmer. Merchant casts off, so do we. The farmer trusts in what is to come, the rain. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth, right? It's always happened. It's always been a thing. It's giving, it's acting and sowing even when outcomes are uncertain. Ignorance, brothers and sisters, isn't an excuse for inactivity. And he reminds us that life is a gift to be enjoyed, but it's brief. It's brief, and we're going to be held accountable for it. So rejoice while we can. Remove sin seriously and remember our Creator now before age weakens us and opportunity narrows. It's living life and living life boldly and faithfully. And that gets me to our first point tonight, is live life by faith. Live life by faith. Life's an adventure, Solomon is saying. It's an adventure. Live by faith. Sometimes it doesn't feel like an adventure because we're in the middle of pain and agony and suffering, right? But he's saying here, even then, that even besides it doesn't matter the circumstances, it's about living faithfully, right? We have the merchant and the farmer here, right? Just like on a road trip, right? This is like pulling out of the driveway. You're not waiting for perfect conditions. There's no way in the state of California we can wait for zero traffic unless we're leaving at 3 o'clock in the morning. But even then, I feel like I live in Mission Viejo. I'm driving down to Oso, and I feel like even at like 11 p.m., there's still a ton of cars out. And I don't know if that's just me or what that is, but there's a lot of people out. So there's not ever going to be a time where we have zero traffic. There's not ever going to be a time when we have perfect weather. I say that knowing that we live in California where the weather is perfect, right? Or that there's no uncertainty. What I'm trying to say is that there's not going to be a perfect time to leave for a road trip, right? You schedule it, and you do what you can, right? You make the best of that trip. If you wait for perfect conditions, you're never going to leave. So the one, right, as Solomon is saying, the one who observes the wind won't sow, right? That's the person. It's like the person refreshing the weather app every 5 minutes. Right? Never really starting the engine. They're sitting in the car just refreshing. Verses 1 to 2, I had already said this. Cast your bread upon the waters meant sending your goods across the vast oceans, out on commercial voyage, knowing you might have to wait a long time for anything to come back, right? Any profit, any results from you sending off your goods, you might not see for a while. And knowing you couldn't control what happened once it was gone. Once that set sail, there was nothing you could do, right? This kind of life has the elements of trust. We could call it adventure, journey, an expedition, whatever you want to call it. It demands total commitment, though, and has a forward look to it. The reward, right, is more than just profits, but the reward requires patience. And that patience, right, is something that an obedience to God requires as well. In verses 3 through 4, right, the past, we could see the imagery here is the tree. If a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where the tree falls, there it will lie. Right? The past can't be changed. But the present, the clouds, if the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves. It's available to us. The present is available to us. And we must seize each opportunity faithfully. It's not about, as he says in verse 4, right? It's not about just sitting around waiting for ideal circumstances. Sometimes we do that in decisions you have to make, in conversations you have to have, in actions you have to take. We're waiting for the ideal circumstance, the perfect moment, and sometimes we don't have that. But that's the journey of life, right? We have to launch out by faith, even when the circumstances seem adverse, because a lack of knowledge isn't an excuse for inactivity. I like how he says it in verse 2, 5, and 6. There's 3 times he says, for you do not know. And he's right, we don't know. We don't know. For you know not what disaster may happen on earth. We don't. As you do not know the way the Spirit comes to the bones in the womb of a woman with child. We don't. Right? For you do not know which will prosper, this or that, or whether both alike will be good. See, certain aspects of God's working isn't visible. It defies explanation. So the life of faith doesn't remove the problem of our ignorance. Rather, it enables us to live within it. Faith flourishes in the mystery of providence. It's not going to take it away. It's not going to absolve it. It's not going to abolish it. So you launch out in faith. You sow away. You give generously. You act obediently. Trust God with what you can't see. And faith is going to do this. Faith releases what you can't control. Faith gives us the ability to release the grip on the things that we cannot control, right? The merchant sends out the cargo. Just like on a road trip, the driver hits the road, right? He can't, the merchant, steer the ship once it leaves. He can't control storms. He can't guarantee timing. He can't ensure profit, but he still sends it. See, that's faith. Obey even when you don't control outcomes. I mean, how many of us just walking in today, we're dying to control a particular outcome. A death grip on what happened this weekend, or we have a death grip on what's coming this week for us. Right? Tomorrow I have to call for jury duty at 11:30. I really don't want to. Right? But for now, that's out of my control. Right? I'm going to call in. Right? I want to make sure that I'm obedient to the law and obedient to what they're asking of me. I'm going to call tomorrow at 11:30. It's given even when return is uncertain. Right? We've been hearing. We have a 7-week series on generosity from Pastor Mike. If Compass is your home church, on generosity. Right? And I think each time, me personally, I go, okay, what new thing is he going to talk about generosity? And it's always something new, a new angle, a new sliver of generosity that I hadn't even thought of. And so that's what Solomon's saying also. Give even when return is uncertain. Right? Give of your time. Help somebody move, knowing that, hey, perhaps that person may not help you move. Right? Buy someone a meal. Give generously. Act obediently. Initiate even when response is unknown. It's investing even when the timeline is unclear. Right? I'm going to continue to invest even though I'm unsure of when this will cease or how long this will continue for. Because I think specifically within this ministry, right? We can't control when the right person is going to walk into that door. Right? We can't control if and when that right person walks into the door, when marriage is going to happen. We can't control how people are going to respond if we're trying to be representatives of Christ. We don't know how people are going to respond. We might have to deliver some bad news. We don't know how they're going to respond. Right? We can't control timing. We can't control what we've lost. But you can control obedience. Right? Faith's driving forward even when you don't know what's around the next curve. So faith releases us from that. Because who is it that you have faith in? You have faith in a sovereign God who already knows what that next bend is, what that signpost is, what's to come, when the car is going to break down. It releases you from the anxiety of saying, I need to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z so that I can get this or that I can get that. Right? Faith also acts despite what you don't know. Right? From this, we can look at the farmer. The clouds move, the rain comes, the wind shifts, the tree falls, and the one who waits for perfect conditions never plants. So verse 4 is crucial. He who observes the wind will not sow. Right? We can call that analysis paralysis. That's fear dressed up as caution. Solomon's point is simple. Ignorance isn't an excuse for inactivity. Like when, for example, you wait. I'm going to wait for whatever kind of clarity, emotional clarity, mental clarity, spiritual clarity, to finally obey. I'm waiting for this to happen. Once this happens, then I will obey. Right? Or it's waiting for the ideal circumstances to serve. I need this to clear, and this to clear, and this to clear, and I'm only going to serve when it's the perfect condition to serve. Right? You're waiting for guaranteed success to invest. Right? I need to make this much, right? And then I can invest here. You wait for certainty to move forward. I need things to be really known and certain before I can do anything else. But that's not life, and we all know that in this room. Right? You'll delay obedience, you'll never start, you'll shrink back, and you'll stand still. Faith moves within what seems mysterious to us. It moves before it sees, but it doesn't mean that you're abandoning wisdom. It doesn't mean that you're abandoning discernment. It means it refuses to let uncertainty paralyze obedience. It's being obedient within the uncertain things, with the unknown, with what seems mysterious, and the whys, and oh no's, and how come this, right? That's faith continues on a steady incline of obedience. And verses 4-6, right, the text here gets richer. It says the comfort hidden in the phrase, you don't know, we don't know, but you know who does know, and this is going to sound so cheesy. God knows. God knows. God knows your struggles, your pain, the things that you're worried about, the things that drive you to anxiety, the things that drive you to fear. He does know. And so often, brothers and sisters, we take a different route. We place our focus on something different. Sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes it's I'm going to shrink in backwards and go isolate myself because nobody in here understands. Nobody here knows. You don't know how bones are formed in the womb, he says. In Psalm 139, the psalmist, David says, he breaks out in praise. He says, I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. He's driven to praise and worship because he's fearfully and wonderfully made. You don't know the work of God who makes everything. Right? The deepest things God does are seemingly invisible while they're happening. John 3:8, Christ says the same thing here. It says, the wind blows where it wishes and you hear its sound, but you do not know where it comes from or where it goes. So it is with everyone who is born of the Spirit. Speaking of the Spirit here. See, absence of visible progress, brothers and sisters, is an absence of God's activity. It's not absent of, like, God's not absent in that, right? He's not that kind of God where he's wound things up and he's like, all right, guys, there you go. I'll see you when I see you, see you later. He's not that kind of God. This isn't an absence of God's activity. It's an absence of our focus and faith and trust and confidence that he will accomplish what he's already set. Right? In a failed relationship doesn't mean he wasn't shaping you or that person. A season without visible fruit doesn't mean your obedience was wasted. Perhaps there's more to that. That's why in verse 6, right, you keep sowing even when you're unsure. Keep stepping forward even when you can't see the outcome. Solomon's not removing wisdom from the equation there, right? That's not just keep sowing for sowing's sake, right? If it's unwise, then you stop. But he's saying, don't stop doing it because you are uncertain. Or don't stop because it's not the perfect circumstance or it's not the perfect timing. Some of you are spiritually parked, waiting for some sort of clarity, certainty, or ideal conditions. And here he's saying life is an adventure of faith, right? Every one of us needs to be like the merchant, investing today in that which will pay dividends tomorrow. And we need to be like the farmer, sowing all kinds of seeds in different soils and trusting God for the harvest. That's what Solomon is saying. Right? Faith moves forward in mystery. And why would you want to live that way? Why keep sowing when you don't control the outcome? Why act when you don't know what God is doing? Well, because life itself is a gift. Right? You don't just drive, you enjoy the road on a road trip. And that's what we hear him saying here in Ecclesiastes verse 7 through chapter 12, verse 8. It's Solomon's moving from uncertainty into sweetness. Despite the mystery, despite the risk, despite the limits of your knowledge, life is still good. And that's not naive optimism, right? It's theological realism, right? The things he provides and gives us access to and allows us to do, right? We can do that confidently because of Christ. right? But we should never be so focused on the things that are unfair, or the things that have caused us to be bitter, or the things that we don't have, or if only we had this or that. That shouldn't cause us to spiral out of control and be saddened and bitter and resentful. Right? Solomon's saying here that what matters most, right, is God. And the stuff that he has given you and the things he has given you, that's a gift. You don't know everything, but you do know this, right? Just as he says in verse 7, right? The light is sweet. We should embrace that. That's our second point for tonight, is embrace the gift of life. You embrace the gift of life without forgetting its fragility. Life is fragile. It's brief. Right? But the light is sweet. That's what he's saying here in verse 7. The light is sweet and is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. That's like cresting a hill on a road trip and seeing a beautiful sunrise on the road. Right? When I went out on that road trip with my buddy, right, we came into finally we were getting into the DFW area, probably around 5 o'clock in the morning, and there was this orange purplish hue, right, off into the distance as the sun was rising, and we were listening to Coldplay, and so I have that and the Texas road and Texas environment in my mind as I'm waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was a beautiful sunrise. Right? Sometimes we forget to do that. We forget to understand like life is still good. We still have life in us. Right? You shouldn't ignore it. You shouldn't rush past it. You should enjoy it. Solomon gives us the second of 4 pictures of life here where he says life is a gift, enjoy it. Rejoice, he says. And this isn't anything new. All throughout the book of Ecclesiastes, he's been saying enjoy life, enjoy it. In chapter 2, in chapter 3, in chapter 5, and here he says it again. God intends for us not only a life of faith, but also one of joy. In verses 7 through 8, life is sweet, so savor it, he says. It's fundamentally good. It's meant to be tasted, not merely endured. Right? It's like you've just made just this amazing sauce, and what do? You get a bag. You've just bought a baguette, and you rip off a piece of the baguette, and you dip it into the sauce, and you're savoring the sauce. Right? You're savoring everything that goes into it. That's life. But he says, death is at the door. Darkness will eventually replace light. So joy, rejoicing, joy is urgent because life is brief. Don't postpone it. He's saying, don't waste your years in resentment. Don't waste your years in bitterness. Don't drift into a numbness. Because he's saying here in verses 9 through 10, joy isn't naive, it's commanded. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, right? He's speaking to the youth there. So rejoice O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these things, God will bring you into judgment. So he's saying, rejoice. Enjoy life, but don't fall into sin. Don't focus on that sin. Don't focus on that fun or that idol, is what he's saying there. We are accountable for what and how for what and how we enjoy life. This isn't reckless indulgence, but joyful living under God's kingship. Joy must be real. It must be righteous. In chapter 12, verse 1 through 8, we see this aging imagery, right? It's poetic, yet it's devastating as we read it. The capacity to enjoy life declines, but the body weakens, opportunities narrow, death comes, is what he's saying. So you can see life in this way. It says, because life is sweet, receive it gratefully. And how does he start verse 7? He says, 9. He says, rejoice. Be joyful. Be grateful. Right, on a road trip, some of us are so focused on the destination that we never really enjoy the scenery. Never really stop to say, whoa, I never noticed that. I didn't know that was here. Light is sweet, the sun. It's good to see the sun. Rejoice while you can, he says. To the young, he says, don't waste your youth. Right? Some of us would go, if we were asked to speak in junior high or high school, we would say that same message. Don't waste your youth, right? Live it now. Invest in it now. If somebody's giving you counsel and advice, listen to them. That's the message we would plead. We're standing there pleading with you. Don't waste your youth. And how we come to understand it, right? We still have strength. And with that strength and that life within us, we have to steward it well. This isn't pretend everything is okay. But it is, don't let unmet expectations rob you of the goodness that's still in front of you. Because there's still goodness in front of you. So I think this is where we then start fighting, right? The little things that are tailored for each and every one of you. Right? It's refusing to let comparison steal your joy. We're all of us, right? Not just because it's a singles ministry, all of us. We're all tempted to compare. Right? We look to our neighbors. We, on a Sunday morning, we're looking to the person right next to us. Look at, they've went and picked up another sermon sheet, and they've got 2 full sermon sheets. Right? Look at the thickness of that person's Bible, right? It sounds so trivial, it's silly, but it is. Our minds go that way. We've been talking, last Sunday we talked about foolishness and the way it causes us to think, right? Or we do look at our neighbor, and we go, look at, he's throwing away the relationship that he's in, or that she's in. Look at that car she's driving. I'm driving a beat up lemon. Right? We are so easy to compare ourselves because we go, man, look at that. If only I had that. We play that if only game. Right? That we hate because it spirals. We spiral. It's very cyclical. Then we're back down on, we've dug ourselves a pit of self-pity and woe is me. Right? But we've forgotten to look what's in front of us, the goodness that God has provided. We have to refuse to let comparison steal that joy from us. We also have to refuse to define our lives only by what hasn't happened. Right? Sometimes we go, man, that hasn't happened. When's that going to happen? When's this going to happen? When's the other going to happen? And you go, at this point, it doesn't even seem like any of that's going to happen. And so we all say the same thing. What's the point? Right? What's the point? Right? But that doesn't mean we stop. That doesn't mean like, okay, this is it. What's the point in me going forward? What's the point in me praying for these things? What's the point for me putting myself out there and getting people to know me? What's the point in all of that? That doesn't define. That then defines your life by what hasn't happened. There's a lot of things that haven't happened to any one of us, right? A lot of things, right? But one thing's for sure is that God, whatever God has planned and in store for us, is for our benefit, even though sometimes from our eyes, it doesn't look like that. Here's something real basic, right? Because I think even myself, I'm including myself in this. I forget this, right? You receive your friendships that you have, relationships that you have, the work you have, your health, church, as ordinary gifts, right? We see those as ordinary gifts, but it's receiving them more than that, right? I think we should see them as extraordinary gifts because these are good things. The relationships and friendships you have are good things. The work you have is a good thing. It allows you the flexibility to serve. It allows you to act obediently by giving generously. It allows you to pour into people. Right? Your health, you can get up and you can be part of an evangelism team. You can go walk around. Right? Your church, it equips you. The church equips the saints to go off and do the work, Matthew 28. Right? The food that you eat, the clothes you're wearing, the bed you sleep in, the roof over your head, these are all seemingly ordinary because it's the things we don't focus on because we're thinking about what hasn't happened yet. You may not be, I'm including myself in this, right? We're not in our 20s anymore. But you still see the sun, right? You get what I'm saying? Time is still present. Time is still right now, right? That's grace. And it's meant to be received and not resented. Paul calls us, he tells us in 1 Thessalonians 5:16, rejoice always. Always be rejoicing, always. Because there's something to always be rejoicing about. There's something always to be joyful about. Even though life gave us, something hard. Don't postpone joy until the road looks different. Receive it gratefully, because life is brief. I said it this way, live it answerably. Life is brief. We're going to be held accountable for what it is that we do and what we say and how we act, what we do with our life. Right here in verse 10 of chapter 11, it says, remove vexation from your heart, put away pain from your body, for youth and the dawn of life are vanity. He says, rejoice, right? Remove. We know that God will bring everything into judgment, so remove vexation, put away evil. Right? On a road trip, there are traffic laws. You can enjoy the road, but you're not driving recklessly. Joy isn't reckless freedom. It's freedom lived before a king. It's a freedom that we all have now because of Christ. You are free, right, to be a slave of righteousness because of Christ. And no one else and nothing else. These verses certainly, they hit different, right? Especially at our stage in life, because patterns have already formed deeply at this point. Amen? Amen to that? No? Okay, just me? Cool. Cynicism is hardened us, some of us, hopefully none of us. But that's just a general statement there. Hidden concessions form hardened convictions. So living answerably means this, right? It's being held accountable for how brief life can be is not justifying bitterness, right? We all immediately become the best attorneys on the planet when we're justifying our bitterness, when we're justifying our resentment, when we're justifying our anger or anxiety towards something that hasn't happened yet. We're so good at justifying bitterness. I deserved that and I didn't get it. Now I'm bitter. It's not indulging hidden sin because you feel overlooked. Right? It doesn't have to be a big thing either, right? It's not like you went and, beat the person up or you stole from them, right? Just in your thought process, right? Just start thinking negatively of that person because it's like, why they're dishonest, they're liars, they're constantly speaking poorly about people. I didn't get that. I deserve that. Right? We start thinking poorly of those people. It's not letting loneliness excuse compromise, right? Because some of these things allow us to compromise. And I say allow because we start thinking, well, I don't have this, or I didn't get invited to that, or this hasn't happened yet. If I give into this a little bit, it's okay, right? We start compromising. Right? We've drawn a line, but all we do is we come in and we erase the line and then we just move it. If I move it up that 5 feet, then I'll be fine. I'll make sure I don't walk another 5 feet. That's not drifting morally because no one is watching. Right? The truth, right, is always going to come out. So how we live, right? It's living honestly. It's living understanding that the Lord still has He's still given us life. We still have right now, and we still have now to act, right? Until the day He calls us home. Joy isn't reckless freedom. It's freedom lived before a king. Again, because life is brief, live it intentionally. He says, remember, starting in verse 1, remember. On a road trip, the car doesn't run forever, right? We can't just go on and on and on and on thinking the car is it's gonna last, right? There's gonna be wear and tear. It'll break down. Our reaction time's slow. The road narrows down. Whatever you want to say, right? But here in verses 1 through 8, he's giving us this picture of aging, right? And here's the list of that, so we can understand what it means, right? Keepers of the house. It says that human arms and hands eventually start trembling, right? Strong men, in verse 3, and the strong men are bent, right? Legs, knees, and shoulders weaken. We start walking bent over. Grinders, he says there, start to lose your teeth, right? He says grinders cease because they are few. We start losing our teeth. Windows, vision goes. It goes on, right? Almond tree blossoms was one I had to look up because, really all of these, but almond tree blossoms, our hair turns gray. Like the almond tree blossom. I had to look that up too. So, the grasshopper drags itself, right? Drag yourself along like a grasshopper. Desire, you lose appetite. You lose other desires until what? He says it here, right? Because man is going to his eternal home, the long home. See, this should be sobering. It sobers midlife in a unique way. Right? Because don't assume. We can't assume you'll get serious about God later. Right? It's about getting serious now. Doing it now. Not saying, I'm going to hold off. Give me another year. Right? It's not postponing spiritual depth. Because we assume, at this point I got it. At this point I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. It's not wasting your strongest years on trivial pursuits. It's building habits now that'll carry you into what he says here, into the long home. Because see here, what you neglect now, it's going to cost later on. So you can't live as if like this job is what I need, this home is what I need, this marriage is what I need, right? It's not any of those none of those should be the starting line of real life. This is your life now. What you're living now that's your life. That's your starting line. Because life is sweet but brief, right? So don't waste it in resentment, in compromise, or in delaying. See, life is a road with a destination, right? Just like as we get in the car, we pack everything up, we have a great playlist, we have great snacks, and we ready ourselves to drive from here to the East Coast, from here to Texas. Right? There's a destination. There's an end view. You don't control every turn. You don't control the weather. You don't control how long the tank lasts. But you do control whether you drive by faith. Right? How you're enjoying the light and how you're obeying him. And remember, your